In this session, we would be having a discussion regarding the process of management accounting. In the previous sessions, we spoke about the definition of management accounting. We spoke about the scope of management accounting. We spoke about the functions of management accounting. We also learned how management accounting is related with the other branches of accounting. So in today's session, what we would be focusing on is, in today's session, we will be focusing on our discussion regarding the process of management accounting. How exactly does management accounting get applied in an organization? How exactly does an organization, if at all they have to carry out management accounting activities in their organization, how exactly would they do that? We will also be having a discussion regarding how the management accountant would be carrying out the activities. So on that note, let us start. And what we have to discuss over here is the process. There are three steps to the process of management accounting. Step one is collecting data. What is data? Data are merely facts. They are not organized. So facts which are highly unorganized is what you call as data. Now, the step one, which is involved in the process of management accounting, is to collect the data that is needed. Step two is you will have to carry out analysis. Now, what is meant by analyzing the data? You have all the facts put together in place. Now you're trying to put all that together. You're trying to organize that. You're going to give that a structure such that it makes some sense to you. It would make some meaning to you. That is what is meant by analysis, analyzing the data. So when we are carrying out an analysis of the data, what we are trying to do over here is we are trying to structure, we are trying to formulate, we are trying to put together those data which are given, and then we are trying to make some sense out of it. Then final step is communication. In an organization, you would have different categories of stakeholders. Some stakeholders would be internal, some stakeholders would be external. Now, depending upon who is the stakeholder that is involved, we would go about communicating those information. Now, in certain cases, the stakeholders might be your investors. In certain cases, the stakeholders might be your employees. In certain cases, the stakeholders might be your management. So depending upon who the stakeholder is, you would have to call in the shots and you have to convey the information to them. So for example, the top management wants a review regarding investment into a new site. Now you will have to collect the information, you have to analyze the information, but that has to be conveyed to the appropriate stakeholder in the organization. So that is what is meant by communication. So now let's talk about the processes of management accounting. Once again, there are three steps: collection of data, analysis of data, communication of the analyzed results. Now let's talk a little bit more about these steps. I told you the first step involves collection of data. Now, where does your facts come from? What are your sources for you to collect your data? The sources for a management accountant would be financial accounting and then cost accounting. The financial accountant, as a part of his routine activities, he would be preparing certain statements. So for example, the income statement or the balance sheet or the trading account or books of accounts or ledgers. These are some of the sources of some of the statements that the accountant would be dealing with. So as a management accountant, what you would be interested in these sources of data. So if the management accountant has to carry out his activity, he will have to depend on the financial accountant to share those statements. Now let's talk about the cost accountant. Cost accountant is responsible for analyzing cost information and then devising strategies, devising methodologies to reduce that cost. So the cost accountant may have to prepare cost sheets. The cost accountant may have to prepare certain performers. The cost accountant will have to carry out certain kind of analysis which are called as variance analysis. So those are the kind of statements and information that the cost accountant would be dealing with. So the financial accountant and the cost accountant, they are responsible for feeding the needed inputs of the accountant, of the management accountant. So if the management accountant has to carry out his activities, if the management accountant has to carry out his objectives, then that information needs to be collected from the financial accountant and the cost accountant. Then the management accountant will depend on these sources that are generated by the financial accountant and the cost accountant, and then that is how he would go about gathering the details that is needed. Second step is analysis. So as a part of analysis, what will happen is the management accountant will end up applying any one of the tools. Now, what are some of the tools that the management accountant can apply? Management accountant can apply a ratio analysis. He can carry out fund flow statement. He can carry out a cash flow statement. He can carry out a statement analysis. He can carry out budgetary analysis. So there are so many kinds of analysis that he could do. Depending on what is the need, what is the objective, what is that the end result that you desire, the management accountant would end up choosing any one of these statements. So that is what a management accountant will end up carrying out, or that is what a management accountant will end up doing. Then you have communication. So what happens in communication? In communication, what happens is the management accountant will interpret. Whenever you carry out these statements, there has to be an interpretation. So it's something like this. Whenever you go to a pathology lab for, if you, let's say you were sick and you're not in a very healthy state of health, you will visit a doctor and the doctor will prescribe you for maybe for some further tests. So for example, blood test. Now, when you carry out a blood test, depending on what kind of tests that you carry out, they would be indicators. For example, hemoglobin, HP level. Now, when you carry out your HP level, there is a bandwidth which is prescribed. If the HP level is between this and this, then you are healthy. If it is less than that, it is not good. If it is above this, it is not good. So what are you trying to do over there? You're trying to carry out an interpretation. There are some indicators that you have identified, and you're trying to translate those indicators into a meaningful language. Likewise, a management accountant would carry out certain analysis, and from those analysis, he's trying to draw some conclusions. He's trying to bring about some meaning. Now, that is another responsibility of the management accountant. The management accountant is just merely not responsible for collecting data, carrying out analysis. He has to convey that analysis that he has carried out now into some meaningful details, some meaningful information. So this is another important aspect that the management accountant will have to carry out, that the management accountant will have to execute. So a management accountant is just not responsible for just merely sitting back and then trying to understand what has been carried out. No, that is not what is meant by that. He would have to now convey that information in a meaningful words, in a meaningful manner to the stakeholders who are involved. So these are the three steps of processes of management accounting. So I'll just quickly run you through once again: collection of data, analysis of data, and then communication of data.